Jennifer Bilek is an investigative journalist who has tracked the funding of the gender industry for over a decade. She is the author of Dispatches from the 11th Hour, a platform highlighting the connections between technology, transsexualism, and transhumanism. Her research into the philanthropic backers of the gender industry has been utilised for legal briefs and platformed in myriad publications, films, and other media in the US and internationally. She has appeared on the Megyn Kelly Show, Stephen Bannon's War Room, and James Patrick's Big Picture, and on various feminist platforms and podcasts. She has been featured in films such as No Way Back, 2023, Gender Transformation, 2023, and The Gender Delusion, 2023. Her work has been published in numerous books and magazines, including First Things, Tablet, Human Events, The Federalist, The American Mind, and in the feminist anthology, Female Erasure. Her most recent book is Transsexual Transgender Transhumanism, Dispatches from the 11th Hour, which was published this year by our very own Spinifex Press. You will have noticed that Jennifer Bilek's not actually with us. And this is because it's 4 o'clock in the morning where she lives. And I have pre-recorded a conversation with her, and I hope that you will give me questions on notice, which I will send to her if that's not going to answer your questions sufficiently. So, good morning, Jennifer Bilek, and welcome to Women's Declaration International Australia New Zealand. I am incredibly pleased to have you here and hugely honoured, and congratulations on the release of your new book. We are both Spinifex authors, so high five, sister. How is your book going so far?
Thanks so much for inviting me, Janet. Sorry. The book is going very well. I mean, to hear my publishers speak about it. I market as much as I can on social media, considering Spinifex is in Australia. And, I listen to followers' reactions to the book. All good. It's all good. But it's kind of like painting in that once we painters finish a painting, we love it for about 2 minutes. And then we think it's the worst thing we've ever done, and we never want to think about it again. And so it was a long, arduous process. Just organizing the materials so that it would be the most comprehensible for people. So now I'm kind of sick of it, and I'm also very, very engrossed in moving forward, like watching this. This industry move, like focusing on, the big players behind it and how the public is reacting to it. I mean, that's like a daily affair for me. I'm all over social media, just, taking a pulse. So that's really where my focus lies,
Yes, I think there's a lot of us who are, I won't say floating on a tide, but we're certainly treading water, hoping to catch a wave at some point that might speed us towards ending the stranglehold that this ideology has on our governments and institutions. So I guess that, how do you think we're going in that struggle? What do you think women really need to concentrate on doing at this point?
How is it going? Well, it depends on if you want to see the glass half full or half empty, I guess. We've had some wins, and I think they're worth celebrating. However, we've had many countries now, pull back from puberty blockers for children. We've had many states in the United States do the same. We've had the WPATH files drop, the CATS report came out. And yet shortly after that, J.B. Pritzker of the billionaire Pritzker family, which I've written about a lot, governor of Illinois, made Illinois into a sanctuary state for people and especially children who seek to disown their sex reality. So that's not very indicative of them pulling back at all from this.
And we've had the tickle and giggle outcome here, which, you know, Australia, we haven't hit our rock bottom yet. So, I mean, we're rapidly descending towards it, but that's another step in our rock bottom as I see it.
Well, you know, Australia is one of the top 20 countries for technological and science innovation. So, and this is technology's baby, this industry, supported by, obviously, the medical industry. So anybody in Australia that seeks to get in the way of that is going to have, you know, a big struggle. Like here, very much like here.
Yeah, I think, I wonder if you see it as different and perhaps requiring a different strategy, because your billionaires are homegrown and they're enforcing it with their local contacts and their industry that's, you know, in situ and has been for a long time, whereas we've imported that stuff. And I know that Coke is Coke when you import Coke, but Coke's headquarters are actually, you know, the US. And yes, they have branch offices everywhere. And I think it's similar with gender identity stuff. We imported it. Does that mean we need to combat it in a different way? Can we point to the fact that it's imported?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that much about how it, you know, moves in Australia. To tell you the truth, I mean, I kind of have my hands full looking at it from the angle I am. But you say we have our homegrown billionaires, you know, but that, you know, this is a global affair. This isn't just, you know, country to country. This is, you know, globalists really running this show. And it is a transhumanist paradigm, you know, driving a narrative through all of our countries that human reproductive sex is not real, or that it exists on some sort of spectrum, or that you can choose your sex. This is coming from the highest echelons of society, the big banks, and it trickles down to just about everybody else, the corporations and the institutions. So it's being institutionalized everywhere. And especially the West first, but the next target is the global South. And Japan is also being targeted. They don't even have a word for transgender or transsexual in Japan. And yet, our billionaires, Ron Emanuel, for instance, you know, who is a puppeteer of the Pritzker family, is over there in Japan as its ambassador, trying to help, you know, institute this ideology. Yeah, so if you get it into the institutions and then you claim these institutions are democratic, you're going to have a much more difficult time fighting this, and that's what's happening. They've put it into the institutions, and they've driven it through the LGBT political apparatus to give it a veneer of human rights.
That's exactly what they did here. And we had the two-pronged assault. So we had all that technology stuff, but we also had Stonewall. So it was Stonewall and their model, which was imported into Australia by the AIDS Council of New South Wales. So there's your LGB apparatus. And that's kind of our ground zero for this stuff, which is super alarming. And they have millions and millions of dollars in public funding. Their budget's about 22 to 24 mil a year coming from the New South Wales state health budget. So they have thousands of children on puberty prevention agents at this point. And, you know, that's a lot of harm. And we're almost in a complete media blackout. We still cannot get it into the media other than a few sections of right-wing press. So, yeah, it's pretty alarming down here, and the violence is increasing as well, the violence of the men towards women who protest. So, yeah, we're we feel very much under threat right now and trying to fight back. So getting it into institutions, yes, that has been absolutely key for us. It started being put into institutions in 2013 for us. So it's been a while.
Here too, yeah.
Yeah, and we have the same...
Or maybe even earlier, yeah.
Well, we have the same Attorney General, again, at a federal level, who made those amendments to our Sex Discrimination Act. So he's all gung-ho for the cult, which is pretty frightening.
Yeah, it's a hell of an assault that we're under. You know, it's an assault on reality. You know, they're organizing. They're sort of grooming us away from our perceptions of ourselves as a species, to make way for advancing technologies. Like these advancing technologies, specifically at the gender front, it's the reproductive technologies, but this is happening at other fronts as well, where children and adults are being indoctrinated. You know, pick your poison: indoctrination, propaganda. It's manipulation. It's psychological manipulation, and it's meant to change our perceptions of ourselves, to make way for advancing reproductive technologies that seek to eventually usurp womanhood, our reproductive capacities, via technologies. And yeah, I kind of lost my thought there. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I think a lot of us see a multi-pronged attack on separating human beings from our organs as a part of this. So, for instance, as part of our self-ID bill in New South Wales, we're also seeing they're trying to make changes to the sex trade, and they're trying to make surrogacy easier. And as I see it, all of those things are about making body parts into commodities, commodifying women, commodifying women's biological capacity. And so, yeah, it's a logical next step. You know, they can say to us, oh, but hey, if we can grow babies in artificial wombs, then we can stop farming brown women, and won't all you feminists be pleased about that? So when you talk about it in these terms, I feel like I do see these stepwise movements towards separating us from our humanity, from our sense as sexed creatures in a natural world where it's actually normal to have your uterus in your body and to use it for your own purposes.
And it's not only a separation of ourselves from the biological, but it's a melding of ourselves with more intimately with technology than we already are. To see technology as the creator, you know, as God, as life generating, when in actually that's the inverse. You know, it's life is life. Technology is you know, I mean, technology can offer us some good things, but ultimately it's not a living being. But they are trying to convince us that that is the case. And that technology can create God, and children are being groomed for this. I mean, excuse me, that technology can create life. Children in the UK are being taught that, you know, they're being taught about surrogacy. They're being taught that they can, some children are created via technology, you know, through the reproductive technologies. Yeah, so I mean, it's all very, very alarming. And of course, you know, women are being erased in language and law because of this, because they feel that, you know, eventually, you know, it's probably a long game, but we don't know that. I mean, these technologies, they are advancing very, very rapidly, like exponentially. They grow like every 10 years or so. You know, we have this big leap in technological advancements. You know, they've put 4 lambs in a bag, right, you know, to grow them. They're trying, you know, they died, but, you know, who's to say what's going to happen next, you know? And, you know, they're growing gametes from blood cells and skin cells. Yeah, so they're really, I mean, the surrogates, I think that, you know, women really need to connect this to the technologies that are advancing upon us, and to connect it to the sex trade, because this is like the pinnacle of the sex trade. It's going to dwarf anything that we've seen so far. You know, it's the zenith of sexual objectification of women and turning them into commodities. You know, we've got the porn industry, we've got the prostitution industry, now we have the surrogacy industry, and they're promoting all of this. And we have all these advancing technologies for reproduction. And at other fronts, they are trying to, you know, take over, you know, our body, to commoditize it, you know, and to get inside and to collect our data, you know, to change our genetic codes, you know, to splice our genes. You know, it's when you look at the technologies that are happening and that are growing, it's, you know, and you connect it to this and you understand that aspect of it, it's like, I mean, I think it's kind of a great way to get through to people, because right now people are really, you have two different prongs of this in terms of a resistance. You know, you have the parents that are resisting the encroachments on their children's psyche, first of all, and their bodies. And you have large NGOs that are forming to resist that. However, they also frame this as a medical issue. And so that's very, very problematic, because it's not a medical issue. Children aren't suffering a medical issue. They're not even suffering a psychological issue, unless you know, consider, you know, mind bending, mind manipulation, cult indoctrination, and propaganda to like a mass degree. Unless you consider that a psychiatric issue, this isn't really a medical problem. This is an indoctrination problem. But you know, you have these big NGOs that are getting together to try and resist, you know, what's happening to children. And they have these large conferences with all these medical experts talking about the medical aspects, and we need more research and blah, blah, blah. You know, you have the Cass report talking about a medical issue, and everybody's ignoring the elephant in the room, which is the indoctrination that's happening over technology to change their brains, to change their perceptions about how they see themselves, the indoctrination in their schools. This isn't just some, you know, fad, that's some sort of woke ideology, as they call it. This is cult indoctrination. You know, they are changing people's perceptions of themselves as wholly integrated beings. And then the other prong is, you know, there are like feminists, not the how shall I say, the corporate feminists, or the feminists that are working with organizations, but the grassroots feminists that are resisting this. It's very, very complicated, because on the one hand, they're talking about women's rights, women's privacy, and they're sort of up against the men that are doing this. But at the same time, they really need to bring men into this, because this is not a women's issue. This is not a women's issue. It is sort of a women's issue. I mean, it's impacting women to a large degree, but this is a human issue. If they deconstruct sex, as they're attempting to do, this is going to impact us all. It's impacting children, it's impacting men, it's impacting women, it's impacting young people. You know, this is impacting everybody, and feminists really need to bring men into that. Now, how do they do that? I think they're going to have to think about that. You know, I think it's because it's really, really important. Men are standing down to a very, very large degree to this. As women are, you know, their sports are being taken over. They're being, you know, all over social media. They're being violently assaulted, you know, degraded, you know, and men are just standing down. You know, they aren't like, you know, massively like uprising and going, we're not going to allow for this, for you to treat, you know, our wives, our sisters, our mothers, our cousins, our nieces. You know, we're not going to allow for this. They're just like, they're not in the picture, you know, and that's a very dangerous thing, because we need them. We need as many people as possible in this fight. We need to help them understand what's going on here. And until we get out of the whole, medical paradigm and, women's issue paradigm, until we break loose from that and get another narrative forming, that is more, oh, I hate this word, but more inclusive of what's really transpiring, we're not going to get too far because this is a global juggernaut. I mean, everybody is involved in this. I mean, the globalists are all involved in this because, they seek to transform us as a species. So
I think, and we're getting close to our end here, but I think I'm trying to get a takeaway for the women here tonight to action. And I think that what you're pointing to is that we need to start loudly speaking and drawing attention to the technological underpinnings. We, for instance, have a growing surrogacy issue in Australia. We have significant use of reproductive technologies. There is actually a huge class action underway about some very dodgy stuff involving many, many clinics. But generally the narrative that's presented to us is, isn't this wonderful? It's helping, it's helping women have babies. It's all great. And the dark side of reproductive technology seldom makes it into the media. So I hope that we are able to draw those threads together. Do you have any final suggestions for how we might do that?
Well, first of all, I think that, people are still, they're still in reactive mode, against these fetishists that show up on like social media and show up at events where women try to speak. And, a lot of energy is spent attacking these individuals when it really could be focused on a campaign to address an institution. I mean, I've written about so many different men, so many different organizations that have been driving this ideology. Pick one, devise a campaign and attack, assault, go on a full frontal, calling out of these institutions. Sort of like we had Bud Light, the corporation Bud Light used Dylan Mulvaney, right, as a spokesperson for their beer. And a lot of conservatives developed a campaign against this company and they lost a lot of money. So I think that we have to have a concerted attack on different corporations, institutions, and even these individuals, these politicians, and go after them for what they're doing, and confront them about what this is. This is an assault on reality. Why is the binary being deconstructed everywhere? Why? Why is this happening to women? What are you doing? Like really address them instead of talking about, transgender people and, the rights against this one versus that. It's not like, there's no transgender people. We got to get rid of that whole thing. There's no transgender people. We have reality and we have, this agenda that is anti-reality. And we have to address that. So I think that's, really, really vital. Yeah. I mean, aside from, calling out the technological underpinnings of this, move out of the whole medical paradigm, into reality. This is indoctrination. We're being psychologically manipulated over technology.
Jennifer Bilek, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It was such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Jennifer Bilek.